Welcome into this Tuesday edition of Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery. Today on the show, the Hawks front office would be the front office of the year if they could pull this deal off. Would the Hawks just stop at trading for Dejounte Murray? And I don't want to hear anybody celebrating the idea that Watson isn't here. That's not what your tune was. We'll talk about all of that today on the show. It's Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery on Locked On Sports Atlanta.
This is Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
We thank you so much for being part of the show today, Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, asking you to head over to youtube.com. When you find us in your search browser, subscribe to our YouTube page. Now over 2,100 folks that have subscribed. We thank you so greatly for all of that. We're also free and available on all of your favorite podcast platforms. We appreciate all the downloads. Leave us a 5-star review, and of course, give me a follow on my personal Twitter page. That would be at JMCH316. So, we're hearing more and more about this Dejounte Murray to the Atlanta Hawks deal. And yesterday, Zach Klein and some others, kind of mostly Zach, I'll give him credit for it, were putting out the idea of what it would take to get Dejounte Murray. And the deal, for whatever reason, would not include John Collins. The deal that was being proposed is Gallinari, who, what would happen is you have to get this deal done before the start of the league year, because Gallinari, if you can get rid of him before the start of the league year, you basically, for lack of a better way to describe it, you'd have $5 million of dead money, versus if he's on your roster when the new league year starts on Friday, you'd have 20 whatever million that his salary is, right? So you pick up some salary cap space. And by the way, if the Hawks don't trade Gallinari, I think there's a good chance that they're just going to release him and just eat the $5 million, because that's still cheaper than keeping him around, and they'll clear up some cap space with all of that. So you give up Gallo and you give up 2 or 3 first-round picks. Now, I had heard and read about the idea that the Spurs wanted 3 future first-round picks. Okay, if you're telling me that all I got to give up is Gallo and 3 first-round picks for a 20-point, 8-rebound, 9-assist point guard in the NBA who instantly makes my team better, who's both a terrific defensive and offensive player, sign me up all day long. If the Hawks pull this deal off like that and not give up Collins or Hunter or anybody of merit, they'd be the front office of the year. Now, one thing I want to throw out to you, take this for whatever it means when we're having this discussion. Landry Fields, who's the general manager of the Atlanta Hawks, of course, Travis Schlenk, the president of basketball operations, and these titles will all be official come July 1st on the new league year. But Schlenk's going to be the president of basketball operations. Landry Fields is going to be the new GM, but he is reporting and he's working directly for Travis Schlenk. Okay, we understand all that. But remember, Landry Fields was also the general manager of the Spurs G League team. So I don't know what connection that means. I don't know what inside track or what benefit there is to all of that. But Landry Fields does have some connection, obviously, with the Spurs and their front office and their organization and things like that. I don't know how the timeline matches up as far as if Murray was, involved with the Spurs when he was there. I don't know. I mean, but I do know that he was the former Spurs G League general manager. So there is some kind of relationship that is there. And, that may aid, it may not. We're hearing that other teams in the Eastern Conference are vying for his services as well. But this would be a no-brainer if this could get done. And we'll talk a little bit more about this trade in a second. But I want to talk to you about my friends at BlueNile.com. Hey, summertime. You meet that girl of your dreams. You're looking to get engaged. No better time than to try to set up that engagement ring. Or let's just say you got an anniversary or something else that's coming up. Go to BlueNile.com. Listen, if you're looking for an engagement ring, they have this really cool thing. It's basically the build the engagement ring of her dreams. You can go online, use their tools. You can choose the shape, size, clarity, as well as the setting style that you want. Blue Nile's got all the handcrafted, perfect engagement rings that you want, one-of-a-kind types of deals that are on there. But let's say you're also just looking for an anniversary gift, or you just want to celebrate your love, whatever it is. Listen, summer's here, love's in the air, right? All that good kind of stuff. Listen, go, you can talk to one of their experts 24/7 on hand. BlueNile.com is where you want to go to find that perfect engagement ring or that perfect gift for any time. And listen, we want you to make that moment sparkle with BlueNile.com. For Locked On Sports Atlanta listeners, get $50 off your purchase of $500 or more, okay? So podcast listeners, you got an exclusive offer. Use the code Locked On when you get on the website and choose and get ready to purchase. Put Locked On, LOCKEDON, that's Locked On. Plus, remember, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that you're not going to tip her off as to what is inside. So shop stress-free for your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today and get that deal and put Locked On in the browser to get $50 off your $500 purchase. So look, if you can, and we'll talk about this in the next segment, if you can get a player of that caliber and give up just future first rounders, which at this point for the Hawks, and I've said this many times here, is that I don't care anymore. I've got way more than enough draft picks now, right? I got two guys from last year that didn't play. I got two guys from this year that we drafted. Even if you told me that they included, let's say it was a package of Gallo, AJ Griffin, and a couple of other first round picks, fine. I'm not in the prospect business anymore. I got to start getting that, again, what do we always say here? That pendulum to swing back toward what we thought they were a couple of years ago. So this seems like a no-brainer, but I keep going back, and this is the part that I just can't wrap my arms around. And I'll believe the deal when it actually happens. You know, remember the blue checkmark media told us that draft night John Collins was going to be gone, and then it's no, it wasn't draft night, but it'll happen soon. It'll happen. Okay, all right. So you said draft night. You know, I didn't misread exactly what you said. I can look at your tweet and read it back to you if you need help with all of it. But anyway, the blue checkmark media had John Collins going on draft night. Then it got changed, and we keep moving the goalpost down further and further and further. But this would be a no-brainer. Why would the Spurs do this? I keep asking that question. What is it about Dejounte Murray that the Spurs are so eager to move on for? Even if you're hitting the reset button on your organization and your franchise and everything else, why would you give up a 25-year-old point guard who's as good as he is right now, and he's controllable for the next couple of years at a cheap price? I mean, you've got him for a couple of more years, and he's only like $17 million a year. Why would you give up on him? Now, that's a Spurs problem, and at the end of the day, if this deal gets done, I don't really care why they gave him up, but that's what's giving me hesitation on the idea that this could all happen, right? When do we as Hawks fans ever fleece? Hell, let's expand it. When do we as an Atlanta fan ever fleece another team? I think the Fred McGriff trade was a fleece, right? That was one of the great fleeces that we pulled off in Atlanta sports. You know, getting Dominique, and, you know, remember, the Hawks didn't draft Dominique, they traded for Dominique. Man, that was probably a fleece. John Drew, and there was one other player that was involved in that. And John Drew was a pretty good player here in Atlanta. I don't want to discredit what he was, but, you know, one of Bobach's favorites. But, you know, that was kind of a fleecing to get a, you know, NBA Hall of Famer, you know, for an aging guy that had personal issues and one other player. But we don't fleece many organizations as Atlanta sports fans. And this would be a complete fleece. Gallo, who you're going to get rid of his salary anyway, and future first rounders, brother, take all the first rounders you want. You know, there's a rule in the NBA about how many first rounders you can trade out in the future called the Ted Stepien rule, because I lived it. I was there in, you know, Northeast Ohio when Ted Stepien, the general manager of the Cleveland Cavaliers, was giving away 10 years worth of first round draft picks, and the NBA stepped in and said, whoa, wait, this is getting ridiculous out here. So there is a rule on all of it. But if it takes Gallo, who's probably not going to be here, and you want to get rid of his money, and just assets, draft capital for one of the better guards in the NBA, Could we get that lucky in Atlanta? I hope so. I would love to see this happen. And by the way, because of Gallo's status about getting moved on from him before the league year starts, this could be something that happens really, really quickly. Now, when we come back, we're going to talk more about the idea of, would this be it, or are there other moves that would come down the pike? We'll talk about that next. It's Hitting Hard with Jon Chuckery on Locked On Sports Atlanta.